Hey, it was Des back with another video. Happy New Year to you guys. Obviously this new year I'm gonna try and make videos a lot more often, more frequently as well. But yeah, straight to the game. Obviously, even before the game started, we saw the Man City drew to Everton 1-1, and immediately we had to start thinking about us, the team. Obviously, we have a young team, but we need to start thinking about them having the right mentality going into the game and feel like they shouldn't have the pressure. You know what I mean? Because the pressure might start getting to them and things like that. And I saw the interview with from Odegaard after the game when he was asked about how did the players feel going into the game, knowing that Man City had dropped points and we had the opportunity to create a 7 points gap with against Man City, and he basically said that we don't think about the opposition, we just think about getting 3 points, which is the right idea, especially because we're in the lead now. We've got the gap. All we have to do is think about winning our games. We don't have to worry about others. So it's good to see that we had the right mentality going into the game based on the interview that Odegaard gave. But not just that, when we actually started the game, so it's not just a talking part, but when we actually started the game, we actually showed that we had the right mentality going into the game because we had a quick start. Immediately we showed that we were not phased by the pressure of having to try and create like take advantage of other teams losing, because in the past it's been issues whereby we've struggled to take advantage of, say, like our rivals will drop points here and there, and then we also end up dropping points as well. That was something that's happened to us in the past, like years, like 5 years ago, 7 years ago, things like that. Towards the end, what the era that we call the banter era, you know what I mean? But like that was the kind of things that was happening there, whereby we were not able to capitalize on our rivals. And obviously this season, twice Man City have dropped points and we've been able to capitalize on them. I think they lost to Brentford and we capitalized after that, and now they drew to Everton and we also capitalized again, and we've been able to create a 7 points gap. And then, as I said already, we showed going straight into the game that we came into the game with the right mentality and we were not phased by anything that Man City were doing. We had a great start immediately. Saka scored that goal straight away. So yeah, one thing I mentioned on Twitter after the game, I was saying that I feel like maybe the difference between us and Man City at the moment, it might not be true, but maybe the difference between us and Man City at the moment is the hunger for success. We seem very hungry. Like, even when you think about, like, even if you go back to the Man City game, for example, when they get in the lead, they all of a sudden they start like passing the ball around. Obviously, that's a part of the game that we also need to work on as well, in terms of just keeping the ball just for the sake of keeping it, to ensure that they don't capitalize on us and stuff like that. But when they tend to when they're in the lead, just have the ball and they just start recycling the ball around and just keeping it, and they're not being direct enough, which is something they were in the past, especially when they had the likes of Sterling, Sane, when they first started on the Pep. Every time they had the ball, they were always so direct. And when you think about Arsenal right now, that's what we actually are right now. We're just so direct. Even when we have the ball, even like even when we're in the lead, we're still trying to go end to end and trying to get a goal, and we're always constantly trying to attack, very direct all the time. And that's something I feel like Man City have not shown this season. So I feel like maybe the difference between us and them at the moment is the hunger for success. We haven't been successful, so we're trying to get there, and we can see the opportunities there, and we're trying to capitalize on that. Meanwhile, with them, they already had success already. A lot of their players have been successful, so maybe it's not something that's driving them, or something like that. You know what I mean? But I feel like we're showing real hunger. We've got young players who want to be successful, who are talented, and they want to make a name for themselves. And I feel like it's showing on the pitch in terms of how we're playing, and we're just constantly. And we even have a young coach who's also hasn't won everything. I mean, you got Pep who's won everything, but you've also got a young coach in Arteta who hasn't won anything, and is trying to make a name for himself in the game as well. So, like I'm saying, I feel like there's hunger all around the club at this point, and it's showing in our game. And another thing that I feel like is the difference between us and Man City as well is the multiple goal threats. When you think about it, they're really reliant on Haaland and Foden. Those are the only two players for them that have scored over 3 goals. You know what I mean? Like, the rest of the team after that have scored 3 or under. Meanwhile, for us, we have 5 players that have scored 5 goals and over. So I mean, we've got like Saka, I think Saka's got 7 goals, Odegaard's got 7 goals, Martinelli's got 6 goals, Gabriel Jesus has got 5 goals. You know what I mean? Like, and now we've also got Nketiah as well, who we know that already he's started 2 games and scored 2. He's gonna get up there as well, and he's a goal for it. We know that already. So that's another player again. And once we get Gabriel Jesus back, he's gonna continue and add to the goal as well. So we're gonna have Gabriel Jesus, we're gonna have Nketiah also. Then we also could possibly have Smith Rowe coming back as well, who's another goal for it again. I feel like we have so many goal threats, and we're also being linked with the likes of Mudryk. So when we put all of these names all together, that's gonna give us Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard, Gabriel Jesus, Nketiah, Smith Rowe, and possibly Mudryk. That's 7 guys that we can rely on to score goals in every game, and I feel like that's been key for us because that's something that was key for Man City in the past, where they had multiple guys that can score goals. So they were getting goals from everywhere. Now I feel like that's something that we have, and that's possibly the difference between the two teams at the moment. Whereby when they're struggling for goals and trying to get goals that towards the end of the game, it's just 2 players that they can really rely on. The rest of the players are more like creative players who aren't really scoring goals. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's a big difference between us. And I feel if we're really interested in Mudryk, that's a player that we should go all out for to make sure that we can continue to increase the gap between ourselves and Man City in terms of goal threats, because that's going to be a big thing, because we know that they're always going to score goals and they're always going to take their chances. So we can try and increase that gap. So yeah, looking at the game again, for me, Martin Odegaard was the man of the match. I feel like he's taken over the league as the best playmaker in the league already. I don't care. I'm going to say that straight away. De Bruyne, for me, obviously, he's been the best playmaker in the league like for a while now, obviously. For me personally, it was Ozil to begin with. Obviously, after that 15-16 season, he was the best playmaker then. But obviously, De Bruyne took over since then. And now that De Bruyne has taken over, even before then, David Silva as well. So we've had David Silva, and we've had Ozil, we've had De Bruyne. I feel like now it's Odegaard. For me, when I think about playmaker, it's not just like a guy who's just constantly crossing into the box or just looking for final actions, who's only alive in the final part of the game. That's not just a playmaker for me. A playmaker is a guy that's just controlling games and trying to contribute in terms of like creating situations. You don't have to play the final action. You can play the pass that leads to the final action as well, and you can try to help your team dominate the ball in the midfield. And you look at Odegaard, he's not just all about the final action. Even now, he's actually getting final balls as well. I think he's got like 7 goals and 4 assists, something like that. But in like what 16, 17 games already, that's massive. So he's got the final action part already. But in the build-up play, in terms of us creating situations and creating chances, he's deep in there, recycling the ball, helping us to monopolize possession, helping us to circulate the ball around, helping us to sustain pressure, finding players in wide areas so they can cut back. So it's not just him. Even like when you look at like leading up to the first goal, it's not just the fact that he was responsible for letting the ball arrive in the final third, because he carried the ball from deep and dribbled into the final third before eventually the ball was lost, and then we came back and started again. But it's just the fact he's always doing this. I said in my last video, he's just constantly probing the team, probing the defense, keeping the ball, passing side to side, doing little combination plays, finding players in the wide area, just finding players in open space and creating situations. That for me is a playmaker. A playmaker is not just someone who's just standing in the final third only looking for the final action. And for me, that's what I like a lot about Odegaard. I feel like for me, he's taken over as the best playmaker in the league. We'll see how the season ends, obviously, because De Bruyne is ahead in terms of assists. But I feel like at this point, Odegaard is getting better, and he's probably one of the best players in the league at the moment. He's performing as one of the best players in the league currently. So we'll see where it goes towards the end of the season. I feel like he can be in for a shout for player of the season if we win the league and he continues to perform like this, because if he continues to perform like this, he's definitely going to get over 10 goals. He's going to get close to 10 to... He's going to get between 10 to 15 goals and a few assists at the same time as well. So if he gets that and we win the league title when he continues to perform like this, I mean, there's not many players that's performing the way Odegaard is performing right now. He's completely controlling the game. He's a massive influence for us in the final third in terms of controlling games, in terms of controlling a build-up, and at the same time, he's offering himself defensively. I've said a lot about that Nketiah and Odegaard because we're defending a 4-4-2 really deep, and that Nketiah Odegaard front two there, they drop really deep and they defend and they continue to apply pressure. Teams have to go around them just because of how good they are defensively, and they're constantly applying pressure. So when you have that in your team and you have a guy that's offering himself defensively, he's a lead on the pitch, he's creative, he's a playmaker, he's getting goals at the same time, and then if we win the league title as well, for me that's the player of the season. But we're only halfway through the season, so let's see how he continues going forward. Another thing I want to mention as well is obviously Saka. For me, I will say it over and over and over again, and I'm going to keep on giving him credit over and over and over again, because he needs to get the credit that he deserves. He's a top class player, top class winger. He's a young player. What he's doing shouldn't be normal. Not only the fact that from last season where he started off looking like more like a creative player, and now all of a sudden this season we're seeing his movement behind. He's becoming a goal scorer. He's got 7 goals already. So likely he's going to end the season between 10 and 15 goals. That's mad. He's going to end the season between 10 and 15 goals for a player who's also very good creatively. So in terms of our creative hub of the team, it's Odegaard and Saka. That's the main creative guys in the team. And when you've got him being able to offer himself creatively, he's able to retain possession, keep the ball. He's able to directly run at players and dribble players and get past them to create a situation. He's an outlet for us, and at the same time, he's constantly making runs in behind to score goals, and he's got 7 goals already. That for me is a complete winger, and we're looking at Saka right now. That's a complete winger, and he's having a top class season as well. Obviously, I'm saying Odegaard is probably one of the best players in the league, but Saka is also one of the best players in the league at this point as well. There's not many wingers that's performing like how Saka's performing, and there aren't many wingers that's scoring the amount of goals that he's scoring at the same time as well. So Saka for me, top class, top class. Nketiah, what did we say about Nketiah? What was that song? Nketiah in the house. But yeah, about Nketiah, yeah, it's like we saw what he did. I don't understand why there was so much doubt about him. Yeah, we saw what he did the previous season when he got consistent games. And he was allowed to keep on playing over and over and over and over again. We saw what he was able to do then. Now that he's got a chance again, and he's not just coming off the bench here and there, and he's actually getting to play again, we're also seeing the same thing again. He's a top player. You're not going to find many backup strikers, the likes of Nketiah, with that kind of quality, where he's able to offer similar qualities to what Gabriel Jesus is offering, and he's scoring goals at the same time as well. He's just very good at looking for situations and poaching in the box. He's really good at that, and he's always going to find himself in a situation. He's a top class goal scorer, and we're seeing that already from Nketiah already, and we haven't missed a beat with Gabriel Jesus simply because Nketiah is able to replicate what he's been doing. So we're so lucky to have a guy like Nketiah. I'm glad we gave him that contract as well, and we're seeing the payoff. Because imagine if we didn't give him that contract because we didn't want to give a backup striker that kind of money, we would have been finished with this Jesus injury, because we're not going to find many players. There's nobody else that can replicate what he's doing. So I mean, I feel like Nketiah obviously, now he started 2 games in a row. He's got 2 goals. He's probably going to be another one that ends the season again with another 10 goals as well. You know what I mean? We're going to have multiple players getting close to 10 goals, and that's something that's going to be key for us in terms of winning the league. And then Martinelli. So with Martinelli, I saw some things in the timeline. Like during the game, I saw some stuff on the timeline. I feel like people were acting as if he wasn't having a good game. This guy was having an insane performance. He's an outlet. When you have a team that's very creative, you need players that are going to be making runs in behind. Yes, he's maybe not the most smooth technically or the most cleanest guy in the 1v1 dribbles, but he's a constant outlet. Constant runs in behind. He doesn't allow the defenders to rest. Constantly running behind, constantly running with the ball, constantly running directly at the goal. And then constantly, when he gets into the box, he's shooting as well at the same time. So it's like, you have to think about it. It's like, without him, a lot of these goals don't happen. He contributed to 3 of the goals. Let's look at the goal that Saka scored. He was the one who received the ball and smashed the ball and took the shot. He didn't hesitate. He didn't try to pass back or try to retain the ball like Anthony or something like that. He doesn't try to retain the ball or anything. He got the ball, cut back, shot the ball. He landed on Saka's feet and Saka scored. Then you got the Nketiah's goal. He got the ball again, took the ball, took the defender, went down on the left side, got the ball on his left foot, struck the ball across goal. The keeper couldn't hold it. Nketiah tapped it in. And then that insane assist from Odegaard to that's probably one of the best. That's probably the best assist of the season. That long ball straight to Martinelli. That ball doesn't exist if Martinelli is not a constant threat in behind. If he's not switched on at all times, he's switched on for 90 minutes, constantly making runs. You know how much energy you have to give to constantly make those kind of runs in behind for 90 minutes. Just constantly going in behind, running in behind all the time, constantly being alert, understanding that when we have the ball, I immediately need to start running in behind. That's what's it called? That's what helps us to keep on being a threat. Because if you don't have guys that are going to make runs in behind constantly, the opposition are going to feel comfortable to push up the pitch and try to attack us. But because they know that Martinelli is always going to be on the last line trying to make runs in behind, they have to be on alert all the time. And that's what Martinelli gave us. Again, he scored his goals also. He contributed to 3 out of the 4 goals. That's a top performance from him. And he's constantly looking very direct, looking like a goal for him. Looking like every time he gets the ball, something's going to happen. He's either going to score or he's going to do something that's going to lead to a goal. For me, that's a big contributor to our team. I feel like even if we sign Modric, it's just going to help us to ensure that he can get some rest as well, and we can also rotate and get some game in. But Martinelli had a great game for me, man. Like, you need outlets like that. You need to have a kind of player like that does that kind of thing to ensure that you're not like you're not a team that's just playing in front of the defense, because a lot of defenders can defend what's in front of them. What's going on behind them is what they struggle against: pace, direct running, and runners in behind, and guys that are going to run in behind and shoot. That's what they're more afraid of, and especially guys that can take shots, that can try and shoot, that's going to shoot at all times. That's the kind of thing that defenders are feral. These are players like Son, Ronaldo, this kind of like wide forwards, Salah, the kind of guys that run in behind, get the ball, and they're always going to shoot. The guys that are taking 5-7 shots per game. Those are the kind of players that defenders are scared of, and that's what Martinelli is developing into. So he's a key player for us. Another thing I want to mention is Partey as well. Thomas Partey, for me, this guy is unbelievable. I was saying on the timeline on Twitter about how he's a controller and a defensive midfielder rolled into one player. So sometimes you get teams whereby they have like a mix. So like when you think about Liverpool back in the days, where they had a mix of Alonso and Mascherano together, because they want to have the guy who can control the game from deep and the guy who can defend as well in deep areas. Teams usually put this blending together. You had Bastian Schweinsteiger and Javi Martinez together. You had Casemiro and Cruz together. You have the likes of Alonso and even Khedira back then for Real Madrid. So like when you have those kind of things where you have a guy that can defend and a guy that can create. But with Partey, what he gives you is a guy that can do both things in one player. You know what I mean? Like a guy who can control the games. Just look at the way he play. Every time he gets the ball, he's doing something in terms of like to progress the ball forward at all times, and he always finds the right pass forward. And it's not just the fact that he can find the right pass forward or the pass is available, is that if the pass forward is not available, he's able to dribble, create space for himself, create another angle, and then find the space. Do you know what I mean? That's a key attribute, because not a lot of these guys who can do that from deep, they don't have the ability to dribble. You know what I mean? They don't have the ability to be able to dribble and create another angle. It's very difficult. A lot of players can play the pass that's available to them, but being able to create an angle to play that pass that wasn't previously available, that's something that's very difficult, and that's something that Partey is able to do. So he can defend really well as a lone six by himself in deep areas, and at the same time he can control games and continue to contribute towards going forward, playing progressive passes forward, splitting teams, playing passes between lines, finding players with long balls. And even when there's chaos or we're receiving the ball, in deep areas, he's very calm on the ball. Even leading to Martinelli's goal, once he received the ball in the box, he didn't just clear it. He received the ball, kept it calm, then found Xhaka, who then found Odegaard. So that's what I mean. When you have a guy that's that calm in deep areas on the ball and is able to just help you slowly get the ball out of the back, it leads to bigger things. It leads to more creative situation, because whilst there's a lot of chaos, he's calm and he's finding the right passes and he's finding guys that are available between lines and guys that can then give an assist. So for me, Partey is unbelievable, and even leading to the goal. What was it? The goal that Nketiah scored as well. Again, he's the one who found Martinelli with a very nice pass to his feet, and his passes are always. He puts the right weight on his passes in between lines to ensure that the team, that the player who's receiving the ball is able to get it, and the player doesn't have to break their stride or anything like that. So he plays, his way of pass is really good, and he gets the ball really well, and he's always constantly progressing the ball as well. So for me, Partey is an unbelievable player, and a mix of, and we're so lucky to have that kind of mix in just one player, whereby teams have to have this kind of mix in two players who one has to control and one has to defend. We have this all in one player, which then allows us to play with two players that can then do stuff offensively. So that mix from Partey is really good for us. Another thing I want to mention again is Saliba's concentration. I feel like in the last two games he's made probably around 3-4 mistakes already, which he wasn't really doing that often before the World Cup. I feel like maybe because he wasn't playing as much at the World Cup, maybe he's quite maybe he's not match fit. I don't know. Maybe he's a bit rusty at the moment. I don't know what's going on, but. Or maybe it's just like the frustration about his role for France in the World Cup. Maybe expected to play a lot more than he was given in the World Cup. Maybe he felt like he should have been trusted a lot more. Maybe that's affecting him. I don't know what the case is, but that could be a situation that would maybe affect his confidence. But we just need to try and see if this is something that he needs to overcome, just so it doesn't affect our season, and also it doesn't affect his development as well. But I feel like maybe the World Cup played a part in that. But his concentration has been kind of questionable in the last two games. Let's see if that's something that lasts going forward. Another thing, again, the last thing I wanted to mention was our loss of control in the second half. So yeah, I feel like one thing I've always spoken about is like, when we're in the lead, we need to be able to monopolize possession and ensure that we can recycle the ball and make sure that the opposition aren't turning the games into end-to-end situation, because we lost control of the game in the second half. The reason we did is because we obviously didn't have no control. We couldn't control the game and we couldn't regain control, which then allowed for Brighton to then start developing momentum, become more confident, and start trying to attack us. And they eventually, obviously, they allowed them to score 2 goals, which could have gone wrong if they, because when it was 3-1, if they scored again, then it was gonna make, it was, the game's gonna completely change. So if Martinelli didn't get that fourth goal, the game could have completely changed in their favor, and they would have had a momentum, and we wouldn't be, and then we would be on the back foot. So I feel like that's us being able to like monopolize possession when we're in the lead and keep the ball and circulate the ball around the pitch and ensure that the other team is frustrated and not able to get their feet on the ball. That's something that we need to really work on as a team, because you see that with Man City where they're able to just keep the ball just for the sake of it, just to make sure that you don't have the ball, and to make sure that you're not able to do anything with the ball and stuff like that. So I feel like that's something that we need to continue to work on, because against West Ham we did that really well, but we weren't able to do that against Brighton. So it's a bit inconsistent in how we're able to do it, but it's still a work in progress. You have to remember that the team as a whole is still a work in progress. We're still very young. We don't have enough experience. So that's something that would also come with experience as well, where they'll learn how to be able to control games and how to be able to close games out. So yeah, that was my view on the game against Brighton. See you guys in the next video when I'm going to talk about Newcastle.